ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Every Nation. I got a special guest in the building. I've been talking with this brother offline, and I say, you know what? I gotta get you on the podcast. And he's like, you know what? Say no more. I would love to be on the podcast. So, on the podcast this morning, ladies and gentlemen, I got the one, the only, there never be another. He is my brother, Dominic Turner. How are you doing this morning, good sir?
Doing well,
So
doing
tell the
well.
people where you joining us from today.
Joining you from Atlanta, Georgia, where it is weather-wise, I think it's about 65 degrees right now and sunny.
Okay, that's not bad for right now for Atlanta. At least I feel.
No, not bad at all.
Right.
Good day for sports.
and we was just talking about this. He's watching the World Cup this morning as we were talking about this. And he's like, I hope I'm not giving you a spoiler alert, but he didn't give a spoiler alert. I mean, even if you told the people right now, the game would have been far past gone before this episode. Who's playing right now?
France
Who
and
you
Denmark.
rooting for? You rooting for anybody?
I like France for this one.
France for this one? Okay. So about time this episode airs, everybody, we'll know the results.
Yeah, this is
so for
of probably the entire World Cup.
Yes. So for the people who do not know, who've had the pleasure of meeting you like I have, who is Dominic Turner? Now I know that's a deep question, and you could take that as far as wide as you want. Who is Dominic Turner?
That is an interesting question, and I would have to say that I am the result of generations of folk that come before me, and I'm standing on their shoulders and trying to push things forward. And in the way that I'm showing up in the world, it's being active in my community. I think community involvement, as I thought about the questions that you gave me to talk about today, is really what led me to my career in technology and technology sales. So I get it from my father. He was a huge community activist in Washington, D.C., and he was a pastor and a military chaplain. He was in the Korean War as a military chaplain back in the 50s. And I just kind of watched him, just kind of take ownership of his own community. Nobody, gave him a post. Nobody gave him a position. He kind of just said, I'm going to take ownership of this myself, and started, by just cleaning out the wooded area across from the house that we grew up in to make it a lot safer. And next thing you know, years later, he's gone down the block, around the corner, back around another block, and back to the house. And over the years, the community leaders started to take notice of what he was doing. And again, he was a thankless role. He wasn't trying to do anything but just contribute the way he could. And by the end of it, he had secured $40 million from the DC government to improve sidewalks, street lights, overall safety, street improvements, handicap improvements to the neighborhood streets. Those handicap accessible sidewalks, where the wheelchairs can go up. And the community had recognized him as a pillar, and when he passed, they erected a massive memorial over in the area where he first started, and that memorial is still there today. So, I kind of take that as my model. Came down here to Atlanta, years and years and years ago, and I was in a community uh, just
Mm-hmm.
south of where I am now, and I saw
Mm-hmm.
that there was a need, just like my dad did. I didn't, you know, it was not anything else other than just
Mm-hmm.
wanting to get something done. So, reached out to um, city government up in that area and was able to connect with the right folk. And I told them that, I found out that someone had passed away on a street that didn't have proper lighting, no sidewalks, no guardrails. Their car went off a 40-foot embankment
Mm-hmm.
down into a ditch. Person passed away. So I brought that to the city government's attention. And within 6 months, they had blueprints. And when they met me out there at the street, it was about almost a half a mile's worth of sidewalks, street lights, guardrails that I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see installed. And so when they met me out there, the architects and the designers, they were kind of taken aback. The one lady, she's a sister, she pulled me to the side. She's just like laughing. She's like, "Mr. Turner, I got to tell you, I didn't picture a young black man when we were talking on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I pictured an older white guy who, who who was concerned about his community to the level that you have demonstrated to have pulled this together. She was just totally blown away. She thought I was an old white guy that was, being responsible for driving this type of community improvement. And so within 9 months, start to finish, they had installed half a mile's worth of sidewalks, about, I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
12 street lights and guardrails at that area where the car
Mm-hmm.
went off the embankment. So that's my background, right? Just being active in the community, and it's not hard work. It's just you got to step up and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
take
that's a
ownership,
beautiful story.
and that's pretty much me.
I love so many elements of that story because I always tell people we are our ancestors' wildest dreams, and I know your dad was smiling down, just watching his son, following the example that he has set and the foundation he's laid. What was your dad's name again?
Reverend
Reverend
David Turner
David
Jr.
Turner Jr. I'm honored to have hear his story through you and met an amazing byproduct of him. The story touches me too because I'm from DC. I don't know if you knew I was from DC or not, but wait, what part of
No, I didn't.
DC? The Northeast.
Northeast. So he was right on the
Okay.
DC Maryland line, Queens Chapel, Queens Chapel. Um, uh, a, uh, Queens Chapel was literally one street over from the road that
Yeah,
divided DC and
I
Maryland.
know exactly where
So
that's at.
right on that
I
side,
lived in Northwest
northeast.
DC on the Tacoma Park side where it divided Maryland and
Yeah.
DC. Went to Coolidge Senior High School. So yeah, this is beautiful. Like to see like how it relates to even my own story. Like is yeah, this is a beautiful thing. Now, the other aspect that I love that you talked about is community. Like um and being that you are the type of guy that you are and some of the nuances of the story that you told, I'm really curious to know, what kind of conversations do you have with, your closest friends and the community that you've built.
Uh, those conversations range, as I'm sure all of ours do, from the typical stuff, sports and cigars and who's going to win the Sunday football game this week, and that kind of thing too. You know, I have a small circle of folk. I mean, it's not like I'm out here talking to 40, 50 people about what I'm doing. It's very few people, you know, in my circle do I open up about this kind of stuff. It's just something I just do. I'm not looking for the
Mm-hmm.
notoriety or whatever, in that sense, right? So it's not something I go out and
Mm-hmm.
broadcast. These are kind of, I spend that energy keeping that separate from my circle of friends that I associate with, and just kind of let the work
Yeah, what the work speak
be
for
the work.
itself, and I see you do that in your current job and career as well, and even how we connected and how you try to listen to understand the problem and see how you can bring forward solutions. I feel like it has that, like, you have that same theme through everything that you do in life. Is that true? Like, do you try to do you feel that everything you do in life you do with that same theme of of trying to find solutions and build community, and then um how do you do that in your job? Well, and then tell the people about what your job is and how you kind of how that translates to your job as well.
Yeah, so I'm in technology sales. I have been for uh, almost 2 decades now. And interestingly enough, as I mentioned at the top of the conversation, I ended up getting involved in complex IT selling as a result of the work that I did in my
Mm,
community initially. And that got the attention of certain people who were like, you know what? I like the way you think. I like your ideas. I want you to join our homeowners association
mm-hmm,
board. And it started there. And then um, next thing you know, this person is mentoring
yeah.
me and I don't even know it, right? And so he's like, I think you do really good in taking your work in the community. I think it transfers very well into a complex sales environment, particularly around IT solutions, because you have to form a coalition the
Mm-hmm,
exact same way. You have to grassroots build up the exact same way. You have to get to the right level of
mm-hmm,
leadership to get stuff done the exact same way. So he's like, I know you from what you told me, you haven't done IT selling in a complex environment before, but you're in essence really doing it
mm-hmm,
with your community work. So I want you to go and uh, get a job as a lead gen person at this lead generation
mm-hmm,
firm here in Atlanta. Did it for a year. And he said, come back after a year, come see me. And, off to the races. Next, I'm into selling IT
wow.
security solutions, firewalls and log monitoring and threat intelligence and penetration testing and stuff I had no idea about before, I got involved in this stuff. But he was right. The same way that I was working in my community and building friendly coalitions of folk to accomplish a goal translated directly right into complex
Mm,
IT sales.
yeah. Now, what, out of curiosity, what were you going? What was your career trajectory, or what you were thinking about getting into before you fell into this?
So I went to college twice over at
Morehouse.
Um, Morehouse College, and first time around, I was business, and then the second time around, I was
Uh-huh.
sociology and criminal justice. Um, Two topics I was way more passionate about than the business and the accounting and all that stuff. So dropped out of college, spent 13 years in the retail space, selling TVs and
Mm,
electronics and stuff like that, and just said I feel like I've left something major undone, and so I went back to school, finished up. But if I was gonna go back, I was gonna go back and do something
mhm,
I'm passionate in, and it was sociology and criminal justice, and had a great time. It was like night and day. Um, so college twice, a long stint in retail before I got really started stretching my wings in community involvement, and then the community involvement led to a whole new
Mm.
career path.
So you had, and that's a transition after having one long career, and then was able to reinvent yourself into this new career. I feel like the career path in retail also helped prime you a little bit too, because like you need to have good sales and your own lead gen and communication skills when you're in the retail environment. I kind of feel that way.
Yeah, yeah, retail. That was a fun um, that was a fun stint for the most part. If you've ever seen the movie
Yeah.
40-Year-Old Virgin, that was my day to day, literally working with characters exactly like those guys. And I mean, literally from the warehouse guy all the way to the store manager, it was exactly
You
like
know,
that movie,
I can
40-Year-Old
relate to that
Virgin.
because I had a little retail stint too. I don't know if you remember this place called Circuit City. I used to I used to work at
I
Circuit
used to
City
work at
too.
Circuit City.
It was like,
That's
and
what
it
I'm
was
talking
commission
about.
based. And at the time, before and we
Yes.
made good money. Like it was like, and it was just, it was a fun time to be in retail before Best Buy came and just messed up the whole game.
Wipe the whole thing out. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So what it was like being on the sales floor in
Yeah.
the TV department or in home theater or in a stereo or car stereo or major
Yeah.
appliances or oh my God, man. And each department had its own set of characters,
Uh,
man. That I mean, there wasn't a day to go by you wouldn't see something that would just crack
every
you
day,
up,
something
just
new.
something, somebody doing something
And then the Circuit
that's
City
just wild.
I was working in, like they
But
were
yeah,
territorial. Like if there was a sale that's gonna cross over, like they have clicks, right? It's like, all right, I'm gonna walk you to my guy who's gonna take care of you in cell phones. I'm gonna walk you over to my guy who's gonna take care of your
yeah,
computers. Hey, how much of this sale we gonna split? Cause like now I gave you a lead and
it was so funny, dude. And I mean every store had their prima donna salespeople, right? And it was just funny. I learned early on I was there for 10 years, literally 10 years. And I learned early on I had to fend for myself. There wasn't going to be a whole lot of folk trying to help me because them helping me took money out of their pocket. So I said, I'm going to become a self-contained entity of knowledge around the store. So I learned about TVs and I learned about stereo. Then I learned about car stereo. Then I learned about major appliances. And so I pushed to
yeah.
become a full floor
Uh-huh.
sales guy. And so, I could literally walk a customer all the way around the
Yeah.
store and sell
Ah.
them everything. So
Yeah.
Christmas time was fun.
They
Christmas
could
time was
stop
fun.
your cheddar.
No, 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 not at
Now,
all. Not at
what
all.
job other than your own would you have liked to have, or would you like to have had? I'm curious.
Oh gosh, what job other
Yeah, the
than
one you're
the
doing
one I'm
now.
doing
Now that
now,
you've
you
had
mean?
these experiences that I realize, and I feel like now in this new era of you, like you're so skilled that like if you could have had any other job other than what you have right now, what would that be?
Oh gosh, man. Um, it would be an owner, you know, um, having control over my time. This is a quote that I got from what's the Dallas
Mark Cuban.
Mavericks Mark Cuban. Yeah, he said the greatest thing that being wealthy has given to him is control
Mm,
over his time. And when I mean, I literally marinated on that whole thought for
mhm,
like weeks of what he meant by that. And when we are getting up and doing a job, and when we're getting up and going to work, and when we're getting up and doing whatever we're doing, that's
mhm,
our time, right? and it's either you're giving your time over to a job that has
Mhm.
control over your 8 hours, or you're doing something that's a
Mhm.
passion project that you want to do in that same 8 hours, but it's basically you only got 12 hours of
Yeah.
light a
Yeah.
day, right? Basically. And
Mhm.
who controls that time? Well, in Mark Cuban's case, he controls the majority of it because he can call the shots and do what he wants to do. And that just kind of set me on a path, right, where, having control over my time
Mhm.
was going to be a theme. So, for me, it's, making sure that I stay focused on
Mhm.
raising my kids and putting them as a priority, regardless of what work
Mhm.
has for me. I'm going to make sure that I control that time with my kids, and making sure that we have a good time together. Also, trying to find ways to um, diversify my income sources. So again, I have control over that aspect of my life, and no one else can dictate. And if they do, then it's not going to impact
Mhm.
my livelihood. So, really focused on diversifying,
Mhm.
income streams, right? Um, and then um, doing stuff that I would do for free. So these
Mhm.
passion projects, right? Um, so it'd be doing more community stuff. And I've got a project that I'm working on. I'll tell
Mhm.
you about a little bit later. But it would be striving to have greater and greater control over my time, and being able to call the shots with
Yeah.
how I use my
You
time.
know, it's funny that you mentioned that because I've been resonating with that as well as I continue to do these podcast episodes, learning from people like yourself and people who've done some amazing things in their career. And I still preach this to some of the young people. I say, you know, when they're at the set of looking at their career and trying to build their career in their life, I always tell them, do what you love what you do. Don't chase the money. Let the money chase you. And what I mean by that is that,
Hmm.
because we growing up, like our parents taught us to go to college and get that good job because that's the way they knew that we would be able to survive in this world, right? And have something for ourselves. And I did that route, and once I started the kind of corporate ladder, like I realized the white picket fence in the end wasn't that the other corporate people that was chasing that. Some of them weren't happy, and some of them had sacrificed their time for money, especially with their family and so forth. And I was like, "Is that the life that I want to live?" So like I've been sitting with that too as well. More so, am I intentionally like breaking the cycle by not selling all my time for money to the point where I miss out on all these different things just so I can climb that corporate ladder. And then if I'm not going to do that, what does it look like to have a lifestyle? So like, and trying to redefine, life on my terms. And it looks like you're kind of doing that. Like how it, yeah.
What's funny? What's funny is if you look up in the dictionary, define rich, um, and then if you look up in the dictionary, you
Mhm.
define wealthy. The the two are separated
Mhm.
by one factor, and that's
Mhm.
time. And again, um, it's time spent doing a job, or time spent where someone else is doing that job for you. And so rich is defined as basically for every hour that you work, you're making a set amount of money well and above, so think
Mhm.
about sports players, right? So athletes, they're rich, they have this contract. The contract says you play this many games for this amount of money. Boom. They don't play those
Mhm.
games, they don't get that money, right? Wealthy takes that you out of the middle of that. That means that you're earning money without having a direct correlation between the hours that you spend in a day to earn that money. That means that that money is accumulating for you
Mm-hmm.
on your behalf, and you're not spending an hour to earn that money. So, that's wealth. That's
Mm-hmm.
literally when you've replaced yourself with a source of income that comes to you that you do not directly have to spend an hour in a day in exchange
Mm-hmm.
to make
So
that
true.
dollar.
Thanks for breaking that down. Like,
So,
go ahead. Go ahead. You were gonna say
yeah.
something.
No, I was just gonna say, so, rich still has a
Mm-hmm.
time component to it that solely depends on you. Wealthy, you take that time component out, and that money is being earned whether you're working or
Mm.
not.
Why do you think, especially for people that look like us in the Black or brown community, that we struggle to accumulate wealth? I don't know why that just was sitting on my heart right now. I know that's deep, but
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got a lot of entrepreneurs around me, right? Surrounded by entrepreneurs. The struggle that I see is that we get into this, I can't trust people to do the work. I don't think that they can do the work to the level
mm-hmm.
that I want them to do the work. And they use um, these centuries old concepts to determine that I can't replace myself in my business. I'd rather stay the sole proprietor instead of expanding my
Mm-hmm.
business beyond just me. Trust is a factor, fear is a factor, quality of work that they think they're going to get is a factor, all of which are
Mm-hmm.
in your control, right? So accumulating wealth is really having a business where you're striving to get out of the business as quickly as you possibly can, meaning replace yourself as quickly
Mm-hmm.
as you possibly can. And you have to trust, and you have to trust your own instincts to hire the right people. You have to trust that you're going to contract with the right, contractors who are going to help you accomplish your goal. And if they're not the right ones,
Mm-hmm.
you have the right to replace them. And not doing the work all by your hands, all by yourself. And so to make that bridge from being rich to being wealthy, we as a people have to make that bridge from doing all this work ourselves to hiring smart people to do the
Mm-hmm.
work for you. And I don't I see a lot of small business people who stay small businesses for that very reason. They're afraid to allow the business to grow beyond what they
Mm-hmm.
can do on their own. There's only so much you can do. I mean, I tell my brother, he's an entrepreneur. He's a clothing
Mm-hmm.
designer, right? You got to hire people. You can't be 90 hours a week behind a sewing machine and still run your business, right? You gotta you if you want to get out from that sewing machine
Mm-hmm.
and from wearing yourself out, you got to
Mm-hmm.
hire some seamstress, right? And then you gotta instead of you building or creating a new construction project where you're in the hammering every nail and screwing every screw, you
Mm-hmm.
hire contractors to do it. And you're going to get smaller piece of the pie, of course, but that's going to scale. And next thing you know, you're making way more money, and you
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to do all that work yourself.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. And I think when we get to if we use that model and start to work with each other and start to learn to trust each other, I think we could build some real wealth and as a lot of people say, generational wealth in our communities, um, and probably take on some of those projects that you do around the community to build up our community on our own where government may fail. So I like that. I like that. Um, what would you say? Uh, in your evolution of growth, what was some advice you would give yourself, 5 years ago? Um, and what's some advice you would give yourself 5 years from now? So give me the back 5 years, and then give me the forward 5 years, looking forward.
Back 5 years is take more of my money than I did and continue to invest in the market, because that's just money. Like I said, that's foot soldiers out there, and you're
Mm-hmm.
making money in your sleep. And I think we need to look more at investing in the market like that. Like every time you put a dollar in the market, you're basically hiring someone else to help
Mm-hmm.
you make that dollar make $2, and you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to do anything to earn that. So investing, I would invest probably 3 times as much as I did, over the last 5 years. Um, Especially coming out of the pandemic, there was the whole world changed from an
Mm-hmm.
investment perspective. You know, coming through the during before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and afterwards. You know, forward thinking. 5 years out, I'm staying on my path, which is,
Mm-hmm.
real estate investment. Is something that I started um, before the pandemic, well before the pandemic actually, and I was able to get another place just before, you know, lockdown came,
Mm-hmm.
and as the market was opening up, I was able to get a new renter in there,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's again money that I don't have to work every hour of the day or a hour in a day to earn that dollar. That's someone else. I did the hard work by getting the property, getting it set up, getting a property manager to scrutinize people who want to move in. Um, and then once that machine is up and running with a renter,
Mm-hmm.
takes care of itself. And I look to do that multiple more times in the future as a goal to replace my income. So
I love that. Love that. And I think that's I've seen some other guys do that. And people talk about the multifamily movement, and like how real estate could be just like a really good backbone to building wealth and getting your time back. So now let's look future. Well, 5 years in the future, with some advice you give to future self?
it would be an expansion of what
Okay.
I just said, right? I would say continue on the
Okay.
path that you're on. Um, I look at life as this is one thing I would say. Um, to me, life is windows of opportunity
Mm-hmm.
that come and go. And I think as we get older and we get wiser and we get smarter, we should be able to recognize those windows of opportunity when they present themselves to you, recognize them, act on them, go through those windows of opportunity, because the next opportunity depends on you going through that
Mm-hmm.
window of opportunity when it
Yeah.
presents itself to you. So 5 years future, um, I'm looking to be able to even better recognize windows of opportunity when they present
Mm-hmm.
themselves to me, because those things have led me all the way through my life to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, you know, I think about just to think of, I think about, I'll give you an
Mm-hmm.
example. Um, I had no idea that Circuit City was going to be laying me off when they
Mm-hmm.
did. I decided during that time when I was working that I would re-enroll back in Morehouse College. And I was still working full time at Circuit City, and I said, I want to take this on. I want to go back to Morehouse, and I want to finish Morehouse. Got enrolled. This is the second time I tried. The first time I tried, I couldn't even get enough financial aid, so it was a no go. So this is the second time. Not only did I get back in, Circuit City gave me a little bit of book money. I also had uh, enough financial aid to take me the entire year. I had enough financial aid left over to get a meal
Mm-hmm.
plan because I was a single dude working at
Mm-hmm.
Circuit City, right? And I didn't like to cook, so I would eat on campus, and I could guarantee I'd get at least one square meal
Right.
in a day, right? And so I was back in school. I had a meal plan. I had books. I was working full time, and then boom, I got
Oh.
laid off from
Uh-huh.
Circuit City, right? Now think about this. I'd been at Circuit City for 10 years, so you remember the severance package that they gave to the long timers was equivalent to 1 year for every year that you worked. So it's a pretty decent um, 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 uh, severance package that they gave us. Lo and behold, that severance package came at the exact time that I was in school, and the combination of those two events meant that I didn't have to go and get another job after I got laid off from Circuit City. I was able to go to school full time without having to worry about a job. So I
Mm-hmm.
crushed it, right? Now think about this. If I hadn't have gone back to school when that window of opportunity presented itself to me to go for the second time because I missed it the first time and I hadn't gone back to school, there's no telling where my life would have ended
Mm-hmm.
or led to because I still may
Mm-hmm.
not have a college degree because I didn't take advantage of that window of opportunity because the money wasn't right and all these different
Mm-hmm.
excuses that we think of, right? So I didn't have to work. I was able to go to school full time. I had a meal plan. I had books. I had transportation to and from school. And all of that came as a result of me recognizing that window of opportunity when it presented itself because I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea what was coming, that I
Mm.
would be getting laid off.
Yeah.
Right. So that window of opportunity opened. I walked through it. Boom, came out of it with a degree. That window of opportunity closed behind me. Now a whole new career path
Mm.
opened up to me
Yeah.
because I had a degree now.
Yeah.
So life to me is about recognizing those windows of opportunity when they come and walking through them when they open up because you never know. As the minute you walk through it, you never
Mm-hmm.
know what's closing behind you, and it could lead you and catapult you to the next thing in your life. And the better you get at recognizing them when they come, the more successful you'll find yourself in life. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
that's just how it plays out.
Yeah.
That's how it's played out.
Yeah. I often tell people that life doesn't happen to you; it happens for you, and each sequence event, prepares you for the next sequence or chapter of life in some form or fashion, right? Um, and your story is like a beautiful testimony to that. Uh, you know, I so I'm gonna ask you this question. I kind of feel like I probably know your answer, but I'm not gonna premeditate on the answer of the question. It like, what would you regret not doing, being, or having in your life?
What would I regret not doing? Being well, I mean, um, for the longest time, I'd regretted
Mm-hmm.
not finishing college. 13 years, right? And so 13 years, I was getting chased by this
Mm-hmm.
dream over and over and over again that I'd left something major undone. Uh, and so I finally said, I can't live with that. I just can't. I can't live with that. So I went back. The first time I tried to go back, it didn't work. I couldn't get back in. The money wasn't right, timing wasn't right, but I didn't give up. A couple of years later, I went back and everything worked out. And so um, I would have regretted having not gone back and
Mm-hmm.
finish up college.
Yeah.
You know, it was something that I regretted for 13 years, but I wasn't going to let it go another
Gotcha.
13
Okay.
years.
Now, usually when I talk to like college students who first graduated or high school students who are first graduating and they're trying to look at, envision what their career looks like in that job they get. They're aiming for the goal, right? And there's this expectation for them, like, oh, I got this degree now, and this is the career I'm going for. I should be making good money in that career. I should make my 80K up because I got my degree, and that means, I could jump now into this career. And I'm like, no, you have to get some experience. Like, no, like I got the degree, I did this, and I did this. And some of them done internships, some of them may not have done internships, and same thing with some of the high school students. And try to tell them, like, look, everybody has to start somewhere where and it leads them into the next thing. Sometimes you don't always get into that first thing right away. um all that
Hmm.
to say, what was your first job, your first job?
I was working at
Get out of here.
McDonald's in DC.
Mickey D's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Mickey D's, downtown
Okay.
downtown DC.
What would you say, was there anything that you learned about that first job, about self or the job itself?
There's some crazy people out here. That's what I learned. There was this guy used to come into that McDonald's every day and steal our salt and pepper shakers and take them outside and throw them on the ground or throw them at people. I said, "Oh my God!"
Oh man!
Woo!
It prepared you for the craziness of Circuit City, huh? Y'all like, this ain't nothing I used to have.
Oh my God, this ain't nothing. No, dude, it was all about having my
Good.
own money at that age. I liked having my own money. I liked having my own dollars, and that was my first real paycheck. I was in Mayor Marion
The
Barry's
good
Youth
old Mary
Leadership
Berry.
Institute.
All my siblings did that youth program too.
Yeah, so I was
Uh,
MBYLI or
look,
MBYLI alum, and so we got our
uh,
first paychecks there, right? For the part-time work that we would go
mhm,
out and do in the community, but mine was McDonald's, and
mhm.
so I just liked having my own money, and so yeah,
Shout out to
that's where it
Marion
started
Berry.
for me.
You know, no matter what you think of the guy or anything that was around the scandals, he really poured into the community in many different ways. So there's a lot of people who went through some of the youth programs and benefited from some of the programs he was able to do from the city. So yeah, you brought back memories with that one.
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
what steps did you take to get into your career and business? What would you say that, like, so, and I preface that because there's going to be some young kid listening to this, they're going to get inspired. It's like, oh, let me think about this tech. I got some of those same gifts of community and being able to connect the dots. I didn't know tech could be a viable career for me. So what's some advice you would give to somebody who wants to go into what you've been able to do to and create for your career and business?
uh, I would say um, I wouldn't have accomplished what I have accomplished had I not been aligned with the
Mm,
right mentors, right? So in the absence of mentors, where do you go, right? So that's an interesting one, right? If it's a young brother or young sister that but I think that there are businesses out there and avenues and ways that you can
mhm,
find mentors. I wouldn't let that be the sole thing. If you don't have a mentor, so what? But if you got one, great. Um, but for me, it started when I got into
mhm,
complex sales through working at a lead generation firm. Those still exist. Um, those companies are designed to equip you with a sales methodology that'll help you
mhm,
navigate through an organization,
mhm,
which is the most important thing. Um, and once you learn how to navigate through an organization, no matter what the size, with a specific message that you're going to take all the way through, then I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the hardest part of it, right? Because that mechanism is at the heart of
Mm-hmm.
complex sales, right? And learning how to navigate an organization to get to the right decision maker and then taking the right message to the right decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
That's the heart of it. Um, so I would say find if you're trying to pursue a career in high tech IT sales, lead generation is a great way to get started, right? And then from there you can expand out um, infinitely from
Mm-hmm.
that
Love
that
that. Love
source.
that. What's one good lesson life has taught you?
A good lesson life has taught me is to continue to be tenacious, never give up, um, be curious, always understanding that life is trying to get you to a certain place. And as long as you stay aware through your curiosity of what life is trying to show you through, like I said, those windows of opportunity, I think you'll continue to excel as long as you keep that tenacity
I
and that
love that.
curiosity
Tenacity
about
and
life.
curiosity about life. Um, I can see how that's been your model for success too, as you mentioned that, as you talked about that. Um, what do you think the future has in store for your industry? Especially as it pertains to, young black folks trying to get into the industry. What does it look like to you?
uh, Still, I don't see any measurable marked difference in the demographics. It's still only a few of us. In any organization that you go into from a sales perspective, um, and you have to understand that that's just the culture. I've always been either one or two or a handful of people of color on the sales side of the house that
Mhm,
a company has hired. So understand that when you get hired there, you're
mhm,
not going to see a whole lot of us. Um, but that shouldn't even matter. You know, you go in there, you got your goals, you got your objectives, you've got your mission, what you want to get accomplished, and you get it done. And you know, you'll find a few of us along the way that'll
mhm,
sustain you and keep you going. But don't expect to see a whole coming out of college. If you went to a HBCU, don't expect to see a whole
mhm.
bunch of us in those sales
Mhm.
roles in IT, complex IT sales. It
Yeah,
has never existed, and I don't expect that to change in the next few years unless corporations just decide to actively and aggressively recruit from
mhm,
HBCUs solely. So I don't
yeah,
think it's gonna
and I also think
change.
just there's not well an abundance of general knowledge of these companies and those type of jobs. With at least for me, I wasn't as aware of these type of jobs until I met you and then other people like you who reached out. And I think I didn't even notice until I
Hmm.
met a brother like you, and I was like, oh, because I mean I've always had people call me for like different tech solutions, but nobody that looked like me. So and then once I started
Hmm.
like, wait, we got brothers that work in this. I
Right.
need to learn more about this, and how do I tell my people that I know like who are trying to get into the tech space about this is a career pathway that you could take. And so I'm hoping that.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I think it started with the
Hmm.
lead generation firm, right? That was mission critical. Um, from there are companies that sell
Hmm.
software, right? So it's software sales, right? And when you look in software sales, um, or managed services, those are the two big areas that I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
and that I've played in, right, for almost 2 decades. Software sales, if you think about software sales, you're thinking about a
Mm-hmm.
transactional sale that involves the purchase of a software license to cover your
Mm-hmm.
entire employee base. And that software could be, you know, a back end system that they store all their notes and documents in, like a
Mm-hmm.
CRM, like a Salesforce CRM system, to a managed service like the information security services that I used to sell, where we're selling our services to a company who wants to outsource their information security to a
Mm-hmm.
third party provider. The larger the company, the more the desire for that company to bring information security inside. The smaller the company, the more they'll be willing to
Gotcha.
outsource information
Gotcha.
security to a third party. Software sales are highly lucrative. You know, well into the six figures. And there are some seven-figure earners out there. Pulling down.
Oh, I
Commissions
believe
from
it.
software sales. So um, yeah, it's a no joke industry. Like I said, it's highly competitive. Um, you know, if you can have an angle that they're looking for real people with real backgrounds, real life stories, that can relate to people when they're on the
Mm-hmm.
phone. That's all they're looking for, right? They're not looking for robots. They're looking for people who are comfortable talking with folk, no matter what their demographics are, what their background is. Um, there's sort of a
Mm-hmm.
fearlessness there,
Yeah.
that I mentioned to you, and you know, you keep those kind of characteristics about yourself, and they'll definitely be prepared for a whole bunch of
Mm-hmm.
interviews too when you're in software sales. The whole model is to have these community-based interviews where you're not just going to do one or two interviews. You may end up doing upwards
Mm.
of 11 interviews. You may end up having to present on a mock product, to a group of people, followed by executive interviews and
Yeah.
all of this stuff. So it's a long, drawn out process to get hired with a whole lot of steps and a whole lot of interviews. But
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, it's worth it, and it could be a game changer, a life changer for you if you get with the
Yeah. I
right company.
appreciate that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. Um, let's end it off on this because I know you said there was one thing you wanted to share, and we would like to know, what projects or what things you're currently working on, and how can people connect with you. So go ahead and let us know about it.
Yeah, you can follow me or connect via LinkedIn, Dominic Turner, on LinkedIn, and then one of the projects that I am working on right now is with the city of Atlanta, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
community park in on the south side of Atlanta. This park has been there since the 1980s. I own some real estate nearby the park, and I'm all about curb appeal when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to that kind of thing. And when I bought the house, I had to drive through a street full of trash, a street full of just car tires, and then all of a sudden you come up to these
Mm-hmm.
$400,000 homes, and then a new subdivision here, but you got to go through this gauntlet of trash,
Mm-hmm.
bathtubs and construction materials to get to it. I'm just like, that's not, I you know, and so I ended up backing into this project. I was like, I can either just drive through here and hope somebody else takes notice of this and hope somebody else will come and pick up this trash, or I can do a little bit more than hope. I can just go and see if I can get somebody to pick up this trash. And that led me I ended up backing into this project where not only am I working with multiple um, um, divisions within the city of Atlanta government. Um, but I'm also working on getting money from various government
Mm-hmm.
funds to fund improvements to the park. This is
Mm-hmm.
a city park. You go into the north side of Atlanta, these city
Mm-hmm.
parks are beautiful. You go to south side of Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
not so much. And they're managed by the same
Mm-hmm.
organization,
Mm-hmm.
Parks and Recs, right? And for whatever reason, these parks on the north side have all this new playground equipment and all these wonderful things for the kids to do. And the kids have safety stuff and they're well lit. You go on the south side of Atlanta to some of the parks, you'd be
Mm-hmm.
afraid to get out your car because you smell all the weed coming from the cars and the drug dealers out there, and the prophylactic leftovers in the parking lot, and the basketball court that hadn't been fixed or repaired, doesn't even have basketball nets since the 1980s, and the playground set
Mm-hmm.
that's completely rusted out, and it's so overgrown you can't even see into the park. So it's a perfect crime haven for illegal activity. And and you got churches literally right across the street from the park that won't even use the park because they're
Mm-hmm.
afraid to send their
Mm-hmm.
church members over there, right? And so I ended up backing into this whole thing where next I'm getting involved with what started with public works to
Mm-hmm.
clean up the trash. I got to the commissioner of public works. Again, see, it's the same techniques I use in sales is the same way I navigated city government. Got to the commissioner of public works for city of Atlanta, brought his attention to this mess. Then I ended up getting in touch with the commissioner for DOT. Then I ended up getting in touch with the commissioner
Mm-hmm.
for parks and recreation, all of which share in that
Mm-hmm.
responsibility for that area. And it took about 7 months, but they got the trash cleaned up. They had to bring in a dump truck and a
Mm.
front end loader.
Wow.
It was that much trash, right? One of those big,
Yeah.
massive front end loaders to scoop all that trash out. Then I had to work. And then I want to get sidewalks installed, and I want to get a new basketball court and rims, and so it's been almost 10 months now, and I've finally been able to get um, Parks and Recs to contract for $150,000 worth of lights to
Mm-hmm.
be installed in the park
Mm-hmm.
to improve safety, followed by a new playground set that's going to be
Well,
$250,000 that will
playground
come
set.
out of next year's
Jeez.
budget.
Woo.
Playground set, yeah, $250,000. Um, Working with some corporations to do the resurfacing of the basketball court, putting up new basketball rims and backboards. Um, then I'm working with the forestry department of the Parks and Recs to come in there and clear cut and raise a canopy so you can see into the park. Because right
Mm-hmm.
now it's just so dangerous. All you're seeing is all this leaves, and you can't see into the park to
Mm-hmm.
see if there's any illegal activity happening. So they're going to come in and raise the
Mm-hmm.
canopy on all the trees. Um, all in all, right now, it's going to be about, by the time it's all said and done, and this is a long, long, drawn out process, it'll take even
Mm-hmm.
probably 2 years into the future. It's going to be about a couple of $1 million that I'll get from the city of
Yeah.
Atlanta to put into that park.
Wow. That man, I can't even imagine the process, and still 2 more years just to see it come into fruition. I thank you for your vigilance, your tenacity, and just your leadership, and just taking an active role just to get it done. Um, I'm gonna put this out in the universe because my mama said a closed mouth don't get fed. I don't know if I have this type of reach, but I'm calling on all my folks who got who listen from Atlanta. if you hear this episode, support my brother, connect with my brother Dominic Turner on LinkedIn. If you're a cousin of T.I. or a third cousin, let T.I. know, because I know T.I. is about developing different spots in Atlanta. If you're a third cousin of I don't know, Stacey Abrams or Tyler Perry, get them involved. Let's see how we can all help each other out in Atlanta to just clean up our communities. Don't let my brother be out here doing this alone. Somebody pull up on my brother Dominic Turner and lend a hand, lend some support. Dominic Turner, it has been an honor and a pleasure to speak to you today. I'm inspired by your story. I know some other people are too, and we thank you. We salute you. And then any last words of wisdom for the people before we close out today?
No, I appreciate what you just put out there, man, and I would love to partner with like-minded folk who we can continue to build a friendly coalition around. That's what it's taken to get it to this point. I'm not one to try to go it alone. I want to build a coalition of folk. It's taken that type of coalition to get the attention of the city of Atlanta to this point, and it'll take even more. So, Tyler Perry, if you're listening, or folk that may know him, I would love to see how we can partner to continue to turn the screws. That you're not going to spend an exorbitant amount of money on the north side while continuing to, over the decades, neglect folk that live south of I-20, especially when it comes to tax dollars and how funds should be allocated to things like park safety and developments in our community that improve your property values and improve the condition of the whole community. It can be a game changer for an entire community to have a brand new park. So it's not a project done in a silo. It can impact the entire community. So yeah, with that, definitely reach out to me if I'd love to see how we can continue to build that coalition. And
give them the LinkedIn.
That's all I got.
Give them the full spelling and how to connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, Dominic Turner, Dominic Turner, Turner, and you can look me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to reach me. And then if you want, I'll let you broadcast my phone number through your
and don't worry if you're driving you didn't get it. I'm gonna put all the links in his email as well, if that works for some folks, in the bottom of the show notes, so that you can connect with Dominic. And that's our show for today, ladies and gentlemen. Get involved, stay connected, and we'll catch you on the next time.